Welcome back, Scale Modelers, to SMKR. This is Steve. I know it's been a while since you've actually seen me on camera, but here I am. I wanted to give you guys an update on my latest build, and it's a buddy build with Gilbert Mondragon. It is actually the Mobius Models Death Dealer. Okay, this is 1/10 scale. It's a fantastic kit. Having a lot of fun with it, finding out what's going together well on it, and what's giving me some problems. And that's why I'm coming up with this video. I want to go ahead and show you guys, give you some tips and pointers on building this kit. So far I've made great progress. I've gotten this far with it so far, and this is completed horse and the Death Dealer figure himself. I had to do quite a bit of clamping on the body itself a little bit to get all the seams to be tight, and I had to do some seam work on it, of course. And then of course I had to work on him, on the Death Dealer, a little bit, and there are some issues with building that also. So without further ado, without you having to wait too much longer, let's look at what you need to do to build a nice kit. Here's what I've completed so far with the Death Dealer. I did finish with the horse as far as filling in all the seams and correcting all the the gaps that may have been found on this kit, and I'll explain those in a little bit. And you can see looks good. After I worked most of the seams in with tiny files, X-Acto blade and such, then I went ahead and used some perfect plastic in some of the seams where I could actually wipe off the excess with water. And then I also used acryl 3M acryl blue glazing putty, and that you can wipe off the excess with Tamiya lacquer thinner. After I had all the seams fixed that I thought needed to be fixed on the horse, I went ahead and primed it with this black Stynylrez. Now I did unbottle it a little bit into smaller eyedropper bottles for ease, and it's got the balls in it to help shake it up. Then I painted it with the black Stynylrez, and that really brought out all the seams that I didn't correct. And I'll show you some photographs that I took of the seams and what I had to correct and what I had to sand on that. So in order to fix those seams, it was just minor corrections. So I like using the Bondo, the red Bondo, and that it dries really fast and sands very easily. I have numerous sanding sticks here that I used for that, and after I shot it with another coat of Stynylrez, no more seams. So I'm very happy with the results so far with the horse. You have to remember, when you're assembling the horse, make sure that you follow the instructions and you do assemble the tail, and then it's keyed into the back end of the horse. There's quite a bit of seam work involved with the horse. I'll take him off real quick, which he's going to get painted separately. But there's quite a bit of seam work. The back hind end, you know, he's cut in half, so you have the main, you have the head, you have the front piece here together, and I just kind of filled that. I didn't really, there's a natural, you know, natural seam that the horse has, so that kind of helps with that. Lots of seam work on the bottom because all the legs go in separately, and of course there's seams on the legs. All the legs are halved, so they all have seams. So it, you know, it worked out great. Everything seemed to just fall together on this, and I'm waiting to put the stirrups and all that on there last because they are delicate. Alright, now let's talk about assembling the Death Dealer himself. Now I did modify mine a little bit because I'm going to light up his eyes. So, you know, I did insert a 3mm red LED inside there. And I'll show you some pictures of what I did, but I did use some clear film, red film, and still have some other things I'm going to do to it for the lighting wise. I'm not done with it. The other thing is, if you notice, I got some Avi's epoxy sculpt underneath his cape, or his, I don't know what you want to call that, but it just would not go down on his shoulders very nicely at all. That's the most difficult part about building him, was the cape. The cape just would not conform and lay down correctly, which what I thought it should do, across his leg, draping down over his shoulders and stuff. And it was already too late for me to remove the cape and do the modifications I wanted to do to make the cape lay down, so I just added some Avi's epoxy sculpt, and it should look good. You want to leave the head off when you're dealing with the cape. So I would recommend, the cape comes in two parts, two pieces, a front piece and a back piece. You see that? The front piece, but the front piece wraps around the neck. So you want to assemble that and glue it, make sure it's dry. This plastic is kind of brittle and fragile, so be careful with it. Now, what you want to do is leave the head off and then start test fitting the cape on the body, on the torso that's already been built with the legs. I would recommend that you shave off portions of the body, the upper torso, that can't be seen, so you can get the cape to lay down on top of it. I wouldn't recommend shaving off the cape or thinning it because it's very fragile. You could break it. Just, I would recommend, you know, getting a Dremel moto tool and trimming off some of the torso to get the cape to lay down without you having to modify like I did with the Avi's. So that's my recommendation as far as the cape goes. I really had to glue the you-know-what out of it with 5-minute epoxy on the inside to keep it in place. It just would not lay down right. So that's the big thing with this kit so far. Now the other thing that was pointed out to me by Gilbert was when you're building the torso. Now when you're building the torso, on the instructions here you have the two body halves that go together. But what you want to do before you put the two body halves together is you want to build the legs. Both legs need to be built because they are keyed in to the area on the bottom of the torso. So you want to have the legs ready to go before you glue the torso halves together. Once you do, they don't show it that way in the instructions. They show the torso half already together, then you put on the legs. It's not going to work. It just will not fit. So have your legs built first, and then glue your torso halves together with the legs inserted where they need to be. And they should key in really nicely. No problem there. I did mine a lot like the artwork. If you look at the artwork, the Frazetta artwork, you can see that his, well, this is the model itself. Let me turn it over. So on the art, you can see how his horns are positioned. They're kind of in a down direction, they're not in an up direction. So I kind of did that with mine. And also on the axe is supposed to be bent like that. So that's correct. The edge of the axe, I sharpened it up because it was really dull. And I also added the notches. See that there's two notches there? I put those on the axe also. So I'll show you that. You can see it does have that bend in it. And then we got two notches there. It's kind of hard to see the other notch, but it's there. And I sharpened it up. But at any rate, I did light it up. I had to kind of trim off the horns a little bit, and I took pictures of that, and I'll show you those shortly. You can see I got all my wiring going there too. The other thing that Gilbert pointed out too was the chains, because he's already gone way ahead, is the chains. You might be shorted on some chains. You might want to try to go to a craft store somewhere and go to the jewelries and find some more chain material. The other thing, just to show you, the other part of it is the reins. The rein is very thin and fragile. You got to take great care when removing this, or it's going to snap and break. And that's one of the main issues with this as far as the reins go. They're very fragile. And if you look also, the stirrups, they're very fragile too with okay. So what Gilbert's doing with his, and I'm sure he'll show a video, he's using some lead foil to represent the reins. Here's the Death Dealer with the lighted eyes. I have her set for 6 volts. Well, there you have it. That's my progress so far on the Death Dealer by Mobius Models. And I'm just waiting for the Avis to dry up, and I'm going to do a little sanding on it to get it real smooth, and then a coat of Stynylrez is in order. That way I can go ahead and fix the seams. You can see I did use some of the glazing putty and the lacquer thinner to fill in some of the seams on this. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more updates.